since the last time that we've talked. Um, there's been nothing, as far as I'm aware, that's changed anything. Players still have to wear the facial coverings at all times. Referees, parents, coaches, everyone that's anywhere near a soccer game at this moment still has to wear them at all times, um, whether it's indoor, outdoor. And then the other couple things I had is tournaments are still going on. The tournament list should be coming out soon. I know a lot of the other signers are going to be starting to send those out soon. So if you want to do tournaments this spring, make sure you look for those lists and sign up. If you want to do anything for me, I have them posted on my website, which is soccerassigning.com, and then just click on tournaments. I haven't made the tournaments yet in Game Officials yet for you to self certify for those leagues, but I will be doing that hopefully soon. It's been a little bit busy with indoor starting up on my end, and outdoors actually starting, which then leads me to my next one. Outdoor games are starting this weekend. Now, mind you, not many leagues. I think I've seen 10 games between ECNL and then the National Premier League through US Soccer. But yeah, I know it sounds crazy, and it was 45 degrees today, at least in this area. But you need to start thinking for outdoor soccer, which means update your schedules if you want to get games, because the State Cup, Junior State Cup, DA will all be coming out probably within the next week. I know their deadline to get the stuff to Sarah was yesterday in one of the leagues. So I'm hoping to see that by the end of this week, early next week, as well as I've been talking to Tyler at MSPSP, and he's probably a week or two out from that. But we're for the mass, we're probably 4 to 6 weeks away from games. I know it sounds crazy with the last year that we've been in, but our plan is to keep doing these every other week until the season starts. And by that, it'll probably be the second or third week of April that we'll tone down on these and maybe go to once a month, depending on how busy it is. But then we'll start them back up in the summer. If you guys have any questions throughout this, use the chat box on the right. As you can see, people are commenting. There was even a comment asking if my kids are going to join and help us today. So they're actually getting a bath right now. So they might show up. You never know. But with that, I'll pass it on to Ron if he's got anything to add.
Hello, everybody, and greetings. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day. I'm Ron Grobo. I'm your state youth referee administrator. Eric has been doing a great job getting these sessions together. And, of course, we're going to be staying on well after the presentation tonight. If you have any questions, that's what these sessions are all about, to answer your questions, but to learn something new as well. So we are very excited to have a new guest presenter tonight. She is not new to Michigan. She's been an official within Michigan for many years. Matter of fact, the last 2 regionals, I was proud to have her on our Michigan delegation. And the most recent one that was in Michigan, she received the Margaret Domka Referee of the Year Award. And that was really excited. Kaylani is a teacher in her day job. She's a new mother in her, she's a new mother. It's awesome. Okay. She's put together a great presentation for you. I hope you'll learn something new, ask her lots of questions. And now I'm proud to introduce Kaylani as our guest instructor tonight. Kaylani, you're on.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but I use lots of interactive slides when I present. So the best way for you to partake in it is to use a cell phone. You won't have to read anything on the cell phone. It'll pop up on your cell phone that you can look at the slides on there. You don't need to look at the slides on there. They're going to be on your screen because I'm going to share with you. But that's the best way for you to be able to answer the questions as we go, so we get an idea of where everybody's at. If you don't have a smartphone, you can also do it in a normal Chrome or Windows, whatever their new browser is, or Firefox, or any of those. So a normal web browser will work as well. So just so you know that, I'm going to share my screen here. And if like anybody could give me a thumbs up and tell me if you can see my screen, it should say joinpd.com. Awesome, thank you. So this is joinpd.com. That's where you should be heading, either on your phone or on a different tab. And then you're going to use the join code, which is GBJBWH. 2 people have already entered to join the class. So I'm going to give everybody a second to join. If you're having any issues where you can't access it, you can always put that in the chat. Yuya and Nicole are being very nice and monitoring that for me.
For those that just joined, because I just admitted 5 people, can you re-explain what's going on that?
Yeah, so for those of you that just entered, the best way to do this is on a cell phone, in addition to like looking at this on your computer. This is going to be to like answer quiz questions, but you can also do it on a different tab as well. So if you just go to joinpd.com, which you should see right up there on your screen, and then you enter the code that's right next to the big pair, then you should be able to join our class. We've got 44 people in already, 45. So I'm trying to wait long enough so that everybody gets a chance to enter. And then what you'll see once you join this, and I'll re-explain this, so if you're still trying to join, you don't need to stress, but what you'll see is that in the lower right-hand corner on some slides, it will say answer the question, and you'll click that button, and then you'll have a multiple choice option or a type in your response option, or many different, options that we've got. So just know that you'll want to do that. And then Eric, if you let anyone else in at this point, we also can, have people type in the chat as well if they kind of join after we've already passed this section. It looks like we're plateauing off a little bit at 70 students. Is there anyone that's trying to join that is like, don't go, don't leave without me? Going once.
I have start class. That's all I have.
Yep, that's fine because I'm going to start the class. So once you type in your code, I'll start the class for us.
I don't have any place to enter a code.
So you should go to joinpd.com.
I did. Nothing happened.
Okay, so where are you typing in joinpd.com? Are you doing it on your phone?
I'm doing it in a different browser on the computer.
Do you have a smartphone?
Yep.
I would try it on your phone.
In a browser?
Yep, you can open Google Chrome or you can open Safari. Any of those should work.
It works on DuckDuckGo.
That's what I'm trying.
What should I be seeing right now?
So you should just be waiting to start. Like it should have said, like, thank you for joining. And then you're just waiting because I'll start the presentation in a sec. So if you've typed in your code and you've pressed the enter, like you're good.
It says static positioning.
Yep. If you look at my screen, guys, that's what your phone should say right now.
Yep.
What's the code again?
It's up on the screen right now on Zoom.
GBJ?
Yep. Anyone else trying to join that wants me to wait for them? Going once? Going twice? Okie dokie, let's get started. So today we're going to talk about static positioning. A lot of this shouldn't necessarily be brand new information to you, but it also should kind of walk you through why we make the decisions that we make. We make a lot of really gut decisions as referees, and that's not always the best way to make decisions. We want to be able to understand why we're making the decisions that we're making. So before we move forward, just so that I have an idea of where everyone's at, you should see a slide that on your phone or your browser that says in the bottom right-hand corner, answer this question, and just give me an idea of how many years you have been reffing. That way I have an idea of who's in the room.
And can we put a longer date in there for like Santa Claus?
No, that's not an option on this slide, but I'll take that under advisement for the next one.
Thanks.
How do we answer?
So in the lower right-hand corner, you should see a button that says answer this question. If you click on that, then you should be able to click A, B, C, or D.
Now I have a question. I used to be certified in California. Do I count those years too, or
Sure.
Just
It's
to watch
just to
your
give me an
nation.
idea of where you're at. I promise it's not a trick question.
okay?
All right, so we've got a lot of people that have reffed over 10 years, but then we also have a very large group, like 25 people that have only been, this is their first year reffing. So this is good information for both of those groups, and hopefully you'll both be able to take something away from this. So when we think about good positioning, we want to think about four main things. The first is that I, as a referee, can see play where it currently is, and also any potential problem areas that are going to pop up. We're going to talk about that a lot on like goal kick. We can also see between two challenging players. We can actually see space between their bodies. So we don't want to be blocked out, so that if someone's holding from the front and you're looking through someone's back, doesn't help us much. I'm also not occupying a space that players need. So if they're going to pass straight through your main core, you're not going to want to be there anymore. And you're able to be ready for the next phase of play. So we're going to talk a lot about what the next phase of play looks like when we're doing some of these diagrams. We're going to cover four main static positionings on this program today, which is kickoff, goal kicks and punts, corner kicks, and free kicks. If we have time, we'll do throw-ins, but my gut instinct is that that's going to eat up the vast majority of our time. So right off the bat, what I want us to think about is, if this is a kickoff and pink is the attacking team, they have possession, you're going to click in the lower right-hand corner, answer this question. And what I want you to do is pick which position you would try and be in for this kickoff. A, B, C, D, E. Pink has kickoff. Where is a position that you can see play in the potential problem area? You can see between challenging players, not as much of a consideration for this one. You're not occupying a space that the players need, and you're ready for the next phase of play. So remember, pink has kickoff. They are kicking off towards the right-hand side of our screen. So we actually have a very mixed bag so far. Is there anyone from A that it would be willing to share why you'd pick A? I believe in you, I promise. I'm not saying you're right, but I do believe in
Glad to
you.
share on that
Yeah,
if I can. I would typically use that position because my expectation is that the pink team will maintain possession of the ball. And if they quickly decide to move forward, I'm in a spot where I've got a view of my lead AR at that point, pretty much through the ball. And I'm also in a position where if pink retreats toward goal, I'm not going to be in their way. and I will be able to quickly move around to the other side of the field to begin picking up the view of my AR on the far side of the field.
Awesome. Now, how about a C? Someone that picked C. I want to hear from that group as well. Who picked C, who's willing to share? I do have your name, so please don't make me call you out. I love you all. I believe in you.
So I was a C guy. My thought was basically, I guess, assuming that they play backwards, since a lot of them seem to do that. And the idea was there then to keep the play between me and my AR. So yeah, that's where I was going with it.
Yeah, I can see that, like, that argument. So I'm going to reveal the answer. I do want to show you our responses. We actually had a very mixed bag. So nice big group. So our answer is A. So let's talk about why we would position ourselves in this position. And you might pull out a little bit more because, as we said, as our most recent participant said, we've got people that are playing the ball back, right? And that's newer to the game when we look at the game in a long perspective. And we have to think about where the next phase of play is. So even if they pass back, where is this ball likely ultimately going? Who can type it in the chat? Somebody type it in the chat. Awesome. So the ball at the end of the day is going forward. It's very likely going to go into this section of the field in order to make an attack on goal, right? In order to make an attack on goal, we are going to usually want the ball to be on our right-hand side, right? So if the ball's in the middle of the field here, we're going to want to be in this sector, depending on where people are challenging, what the field is looking like, because we can see our AR on the far side of the field, and we can cover this side of the field, right? It's not the strict diagonal, it's just in general, these are our general sections that we're going to be in. We want to be to the left of play, which means we have the ball on our right-hand side. This position gives us a really good opportunity to run directly into that sector if the ball does the predictable thing, which is move forward at all into this large area. Okay, are there any questions on that? All right. And again, this is just another example straight from the laws of the game. They put it a little differently. They only put this one player up here because they can kick directly backwards now. But again, they're kind of giving you this opportunity to move up and down into those sections depending on where play goes. This is a goal kick or a punt. We're going to talk about if this player on the right hand side. Sorry?
I have a question on the 2 slides back.
Yeah.
In the age group age groups that I referee 90% of the time, they don't play it back unless it's still inside the kickoff circle. And then they just bang it forward to their right-hand side, which is nearer, keeps the ball between. That's why I picked D.
So are you saying they kick it into this area, just so I'm clear as to what you're saying?
About
So
90% of the time. That's why I picked D as a starting point.
So
Then
while
I keep the ball between me and the AR.
While I understand the desire to kind of get a jump on a position that you know a certain age group does, at the end of the day, the goal is that they learn how to play soccer, right? Now, if you have 5 games in a day, there is going to have to be sacrifices that are made for legs and health and all of that. But when we talk about an ideal position for a kickoff, it's not our job in a kickoff to read, well, the chances that they're going to bash it up into that high right-hand corner, especially if the age group is on some of those smaller fields. It doesn't take that many more steps for big people like us to get from this half of the field onto this half of the field, right? If we've got under 10s, under 11s, we're sometimes playing on those smaller fields where we can make up for that. And we still, by starting here, we can move up into this space and still have the ball between us and our AR. So I get it. Like when we've got lots of games in a day, we have to kind of make decisions because we've got to survive. But technically, this is what US Soccer is telling us is our starting position for kickoff.
Okay.
So we're going to do goal kick punt now. So if you've got a goal kick or a punt, again, we're assuming that this is a higher level of play and that it's not just going to kind of like trickle out 3 feet outside of the penalty area. So in your lower right-hand corner, you're going to click answer the question. Remember that the right-hand side goalkeeper here is the one that has the goal kick or the punt. So some things that we have to keep in mind is where is the ball likely going? And what do we read in order to find that out? We don't read the fact that it's a goal kick. All goal kicks don't go to the same side of the field, right? It's not like a kickoff where we can say, well, the ball's going to go forward eventually. We have to say to ourselves, well, I have to read the players and where the players are right now, because that's probably going to show me where conflict is going to happen. So what is a position where we can see between players? You're not occupying a space that they're going to need immediately once that ball comes to the ground. And you can be ready for the next phase of play after those 2 players come up, they collide, they challenge. And let's say the logical thing happens, which is the goalkeeper's team maintains control. Then where is that ball probably going and what's a position that would be logical for you to have? I see some people like making changes on their decisions. It's very entertaining for me on the teacher side. It's like watching 2 little racetracks. We've got 62 of 90 participating. Normally we at least get 72 people to participate. So I'm gonna give you a minute.
I'm not seeing the answer to the question.
On the lower right-hand corner,
It says show question. That's what you touch.
I was able to see it with an alt tab.
okay, we're up to our normal participation level. We've got 72 responses. Some people are still shifting their answers and going back and forth between the 2. I see you. So our correct answer is B. So B, which is actually what most of you said, so well done. B and C are tricky, right? And that's because we want to see, this should have drawn our attention, like these 2 players, right? They're going to be where our main challenge is likely going to be based on where the players are lined up right now. If we have different gatherings of players, then we have different sets of challenging players. But where they are right now, this is likely going to be a challenge area and possibly these 2 players as well. Okay.
I'm assuming, Leilani, I'm assuming that we're looking at this as if we're reffing under 15, under 14s, 15s.
Yep, that's what I said earlier.
Not under 8s, 10s, and 12s.
Yep, that's what I said earlier, to assume that it was going in an under 10, 12, it's unlikely to even like get past the halfway line. So we're assuming that we're playing, we're doing those higher levels so that we can understand the mechanics. That way we can apply it to lower levels. We have to understand how it's applied to those higher levels. So when we've got these 2 players, a lot of people kind of get drawn off by this C position, because this, in theory, is a really good spot to see between these 2 players. However, does anyone want to unmute and possibly tell me a glaring problem that could exist if you are right here and these two players challenge for the ball.
You're in the way. Smack dab in the middle of play.
Yeah,
Be in the way.
we're gonna get hit by the ball. Like this defending team player is going to go up. He's going to try and hit it over to this player. This player might move into this space, and now you are directly in the middle of a passing channel, right?
And
Which is the
being-
last thing we want.
And being too close to play, you don't really have a good view of what may happen. So
Very good. Yeah. So when we give ourselves this position, we assume it's probably going to stay with that team. Again, younger players, there's always going to be bopping back and forth. It's basically pinball with a soccer ball. But when we're understanding the concept of static positioning, we practice so that when we are in one of those bigger games, we understand where we're supposed to be, right? And when these two players go in, it's likely this ball is going to end up in this space and possibly move forward on an attack from there. This position gives us an opportunity to move here. And it also gives us an opportunity that if there's a quick counter, we can move forward into this space as well. And again, all of these are ranges. Referee positions are very subjective. This circle, they draw them as circles because the circle can get larger or smaller. You can get closer or farther away from play based on whatever you need in the moment. This is an example from the laws of the game. I've oriented it so that it's the same kind of orientation as our previous photo. So again, we've got a goalkeeper punting from this side of the field, and we've got possibly these two players challenging, these two players possibly challenging as well, not as much here. And in this case, IFAB is telling us you can move up to that left-hand side a little bit so that you can get a better view of these two players. You can also turn and observe these players behind you if you notice the ball ends up going there. So it's the same basic principle, just a little different. So we're
Hey,
gonna
Kalani?
yeah.
Just want to make one extra point. Just because this is static positioning doesn't mean we have to be static. So I know I can see a few of your faces saying like, oh, in my games, they're never going to kick it in the right spot ever. When that ball's in the air or as it's being played on the ground, we can be walking or running to where that new spot is going to be. So just something to think about. Again, yes, these photos are like just snapshots in time, but we can be moving in the amount, half a second, you can move quite a distance. You have plenty of time to adjust as the players need you to.
Yeah, we tell our ARs this a lot of times, right? When we tell them, you know, if they blast it over in a big game, like if they blast it over the net, well, just keep moving your feet because by the time all of the spectators look at you, you'll be on the goal line, right? We should be surprised at how quickly we end up moving. So as soon as that ball is kicked, we can start moving to wherever we think and adjusting based on the ball's current trajectory. That's going to be really important when we talk about corner kicks, because some of the kicks that are used, the images that are used in corner kicks from the laws of the game, they're obviously like mid kick. Like they're very obviously not at the beginning of a kick because players don't start there. So something to keep in mind.
Hey, Kalani,
Yeah.
what's recommended when you know the team is going to play sideways rather than down the field on a goal kick?
Like a short
There's some
pass.
teams that, yeah, they'll play it sideways one way or the other, even within the area, all the time.
So
what's the recommendation?
Yeah, good question. So for example, for this, like let's say this goalkeeper kind of like tosses it down onto the ground and then plays it to this defender, right? Because that's their MO. They've just constantly been doing that. We know if we know that that's happening.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm even thinking just straight from the goal kick, going sideways
Yeah.
off the 6.
So yeah, absolutely. So if it were here and they're going to play it like out here, right? And they've got a defender out here. Same type of thing. If we are able to start at B, right? At least we're heading there. Right? That defender hanging back, right? I mean, go, well, okay, maybe I'm going to start pulling up here because I see that defender, right? And now we see a very clear signal from the goalkeeper that he's just going to do that little short pass, or they've done it 10 times already. There's nothing wrong with pulling in there. Just know that if they suddenly decide to do like a massive kick, you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, right? So
Right.
we read the game that we're in at the time. So if they're doing that consistently and you know that that's probably what's going to happen next, we adjust to that. We just always need to be prepared that they can change their mind at any time because they're fickle little beasts, our little soccer players.
Because I've seen a lot of teams that'll have the fullback on each side, and they'll play it 3 or 4 times back between themselves and the goalkeeper, and back to the other side and back in the middle before they ever get out of the 18.
So it's important to remember though that, so we always want to keep in mind if there's any pressure, right? So if they're bopping it around back there and you're keeping an eye on this forward line of pink players and they're like uninterested as uninterested can be, and they're like, we're not biting, like y'all do your fun little song and dance all you want, then we don't have to adjust our positioning. However, when we have those forwards taking the bait, and now there might be a challenge, or now there might be conflict between 2 players, then we adjust, right? Does that help?
Yeah.
Cool. So we're gonna watch some video examples of goal kick positioning. This is some of our own, State Cup Finals referee positions. They're short clips just to kind of show you, watch how the referee is moving as soon as the ball is moving. And you don't always see the referee because remember, this film was not made for referee review. This film was made for parents that want to watch their kids on TV. So that's what they're focused on, but you got to find the referee. We've got a referee over here. Ball coming in. Right, so we're gonna watch that one more time. Our referee is over here on this left-hand side, starting in that B position. Generally, our ball is about to kick in 3, 2, 1. It's up in the air. Referee is realizing it might have been nice if that referee took a couple shuffle steps to the left and got a better view on that first conflict that happened, that first challenge, because then it came back and he was in a good position, but that first challenge, he didn't have the best one. Okay. There we go. And here is our other one. So again, this one is trickier because she pulled in to respond to play. It's important to remember that by the time we saw the referee, the ball had already been in the air for about 3 seconds. So when we watch this, she likely started out here and then came in when we saw this scrum of players. So if we play it again, she's starting to move her feet 1, 2, 3. We'd like to see her out here coming into that rather than being caught having to backtrack out of it. Questions on this? I know video reviews are rough on Zoom. I know they get choppy, so feel free to ask questions. Okay. Now we're going to talk about corner kicks. So corner kicks sometimes trip us up depending on what side they're on, but we're going to start as if there's a corner kick on your AR's side. So it's over down here in this lower right-hand corner. You're looking for a position that lets you see play and a potential problem. The reason that I'm going to mention this particular idea is that we've got this photo diagram is a little interesting to me in that, oh, I don't have a multiple choice enabled for this. I apologize, everybody. That's my bad. I must have forgot to hit the little button. So if we look at this scrum, it's really unlikely that we're going to have that at the start of a corner kick at any higher level games, right? It's possible. It's not impossible. But most of the time, we have these players at the top of the box here, at the top of the penalty area, that then make a run into that space, right? So this diagram is already a little misleading. If I were honest, I would say this is probably like our ball is already airborne in the games that I'm reffing. That's when people are in the middle here. So when we've got this sort of thing that we're looking at, we want to be positioned. I usually start outside the penalty area. That's my comfort area. But I understand that if it requires me to pull into that penalty area to see between players, that is okay. The corner kick is the hardest one to teach for static positioning because a lot of the diagrams that we have, my dog is going to bark here in a minute. I just know it, and it's going to blow all of your ears off. I apologize in advance. Yep, there it is. Really? Thank you.
You mentioned the position of the players. You mentioned the position of the players at the start of this as being possibly not what you normally see.
Yeah.
But because no one can be offside on a corner kick, I would see this positioning much more in a corner kick situation than in a potential free kick from a wide position on the field.
Yeah, and definitely this happens.
The offensive players can take any position on the corner kick, which they can't on a direct free kick.
That's very true. That being said, most people are still making runs into that penalty area because if they just stand still and they just jump straight up, they have no momentum, right? So they certainly by halfway through the kick, they're in this position. Like this is where it's at. And they might start right inside the penalty area, but they're at least moving in some fashion, which is why it makes it really important for corner kicks for us to be moving as we're going. What I want us to walk away from with this diagram is that on all of the examples that we have in our laws of the game and in other supplementals, we see that they place that referee a little bit closer than possibly we're comfortable with. Understand that that's a range that we can move into. So when we start, if you start at the top of this PA and you move into this space to keep being able to see through players, that's your goal on a corner kick. Octavian, you were going to say something.
Could I comment on something?
Yeah.
It seems to me that a corner kick, although we call it a static position, is not that much of a static position. There's a lot of things going on. First of all, of course, it depends on the kind of games you do. But first of all, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to manage the attackers around the keeper. I need to make sure that they're not impeding and there are no problems. Then basically all these players are being marked there and they hang on each other and that sort of thing. So I actually need to actively manage the players before I even think about what position I need to be when the ball will be in the air. And a close proximity like that is actually helping with my position. It would help me manage the players because they don't do all the bad things that they can do when the ball is up in the air. And then I can move into my position once the ball is kicked. And I can figure out, according to the 4 points that you put earlier, where I see the landing zone and the point of contact where the ball is going, and I can move into that position that I need to see best. I will have to figure out if there are any problem matchups that they came up in the games between attackers and defenders. And there are many defenders that will just go, and there are a lot of issues that are coming in there, not just simply, of sort of a clean. So we have to keep that, at least in my experience, half of my positioning is based on the fact that I have to actively manage players before, and during the kick. And
Yeah,
basically
managing
that's
players is definitely
what I
always
was,
going to be something that we have to do on our fields, right? These, at the end of the day, every training session that you go to is going to give you some tools that you can try in your toolbox. And if you try a position and it doesn't feel right, or it doesn't do what you need it to do, then don't use it. But when we, do these types of trainings, what we try and say is like, okay, this is the logic behind it. And absolutely, player management has to be very high on a corner kick. At the end of the day, all static positioning means for us is that the ball is dead currently, and we have to pick a position where we think we're going to be able to make the best future decisions based on the players we see in front of us and based on what we know happens in the vast majority of plays that look like this. So corner kicks or goal kicks, but good information. So this is a really good example of a starting position and movement that follows after it. So I want us to watch this video real quick. So he decides to start inside that PA, and as soon as that ball is kicked, he's moving, he's backtracking, he's like adjusting to where he's at. We're going to watch this one more time.
Look where all the players were before the kick was taken.
Yep. So again, he made that adjustment based on what he saw in front of him. So do we have any questions on like the video that we just saw?
well, just one quick comment. The one thing I like the most about what he did is he clearly saw the two pairs that were potential problems right in front of the goal and the stuff, and he was actually focusing on those players, and I think that shows very well that he understood what's going on before the ball was and what's going to happen, and I thought he did very well in that respect. He had a very good view of it. He positioned himself to see the contact between these players.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Any other comments or questions that you have about the clip?
There's one in the chat box if you can see it.
I can't see chat normally
Okay.
unless I share. Oh, I can see it now. Can you provide comment on not being inside the PA with the new drop ball rules with the ball? Can you provide?
So this is Jim. I'm the one that typed the comment.
Hi.
One of the things with the new drop ball law, right,
Yeah.
with the contacting the referee inside the penalty area and possibly changing possession, the drop ball then goes to the keeper.
Yeah.
So is it wise for us to be so far inside of the penalty area with that potential opportunity of it contacting us? And in which case, then you're taking away any kind of attacking opportunity for the offensive team. Just looking for a comment on that.
No,
Again,
I like that's a
which
really
is the
good
new rule, which is the new rule, right?
Yeah, that is. So I really like that thought process. And I think that that has to go back to where we see our players gathering, right? And so I would still say probably, like, he was maybe a little farther into the PA than I'm comfortable with, but I'm a female, and when I ref men's games, I have shorter legs, and so I like to get a little more distance and run forward rather than backward. That's me adjusting to reffing that game. If we're noticing though that the players that we're reffing, this comes down to like level of play. If they can control where that ball's going, then we can risk being a little bit closer in there so that we can see between those players. If they're like bashing it, right, because they're 12-year-olds, and it might go straight into our face if we get too close, hopefully you got a little height on them as well, and you can cheat with that. Does that make sense? So we're kind of adjusting based on how far we go in, based on the level of play that we're working with.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the number of times, even with the age that we have here, right? Looks like an older age group.
Like
Number of
16.
times that the ball's on the ground, and what's the defense doing? They're just blasting at it, trying to clear it, right?
Yeah.
That's the only reason I was commenting. So thank you for the input.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk that we take by being in there. I mean, good news is in the situation that you mentioned, if the defense blasts it and it hits us, then it is going back to the team that earned it. But I definitely understand the reticence to move into that area.
Hey, Kaylani,
Yeah,
may I make a quick comment on that video?
absolutely.
That might also further answer Jim's point. If you look at that referee in that situation, when that ball comes in, he very subtly makes this point. If you can play the video again if you'd like, but at no point right here, look behind him. There is no attacker where if that ball comes out, he's going to put himself in a shielding position for a shot on goal. So he's checked his shoulder at this point, and he realizes that even if this ball is misplayed, he's going to be able to recover. Now, he makes a kind of a daring escape here and goes towards the end line. He could have potentially also retreated here at the end of this clip back towards the 18, which he recovers nicely doing after he realizes that change. But if you play the whole video through, at no point is he kind of creating a wall between a potential shot on goal, which is the more effective or unfortunate consequence Jim's talking about, is that an offensive shot would come in and now we're rewarding that as a defensive drop ball to the goalkeeper. Whereas if it's a clearance, I mean, a clearance is a clearance. It will go right back to the goalkeeper.
No, that's a good point, Chris. Thank you
I love
very much.
that, Chris. Thank you. I'm gonna write that down for next time. The only thing I want to bring to our attention with this slide is that it doesn't change according to US Soccer just because the ball switches sides. And for some people, that's really kind of disconcerting because the ball is behind you, right? If they're playing a short ball, then obviously your head has to be able to turn over your shoulder and be aware of that. But if we think about the fact that if there's no like quick pass to another teammate, like another pink player in this upper corner, then we don't have to worry about that ball. Like that ball is gonna go up and over the way it should. And again, this position is completely dependent on what we see in front of us, right? If we see players that are coming out farther here, defenders and forwards alike, then we're going to pull out as well. If they're all moving towards this side of the PA, we're going to push in a little. It's all about reading the group in front of you and positioning yourself based on this. So if you do see a group that looks like this is where US Soccer is saying generally where they're recommending range-wise you should be. How are we feeling about this with it on the same side as us, with the ball coming in from behind us? Anybody nervous or uncomfortable?
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Like, could you like clarify like why that's like the like position we need to be in? Because I feel like I don't know. I just think it's kind of like weird in a way. I don't know how to like explain it, but I was just wondering clarity for that.
So when we talk about our conditions of where we need to be, right? We want to make sure that we can see where the ball is going. as far as, you know, thinking about that, either side could work, right? If we were over here or if we were over here, we could see where the ball is going. I'm going to see between players. We could technically do that from this side as well as this side. We also want to make sure generally to keep our AR in our line of sight. We want to be able to use them. If we're on this side of the PA and we're looking into this scrum, then we get the exact same view as our AR that's looking down the line. Now, maybe we're looking for something different. Maybe the AR is focused on whether it's going into the goal or not, or they're focusing on offside, but image-wise, we get the same view as them. That's generally not a good, efficient use of our referee team. We want to have different angles of view so that we can see different things and come up with a bigger picture of what's going on. Does that help you understand?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I might mention for those of us in the 10+ years of officiating, we used to be taught not to keep the same position on corner kicks because savvy attackers and defenders, if they know you're going to be in the same place every time, they can figure out how best to foul.
Yeah,
and we used to get assessed on that also.
I think that the what's the word I'm looking for? I think that the idea of that is carried through in our current positioning when we tell our refs when the ball is moving, you're moving, right? So yes, there is always a risk that they're going to kind of sense where you set up originally, but you don't always have to make the same run, right? Like based on where you see players going or play going, you're going to make different runs and move to different areas. So as soon as that ball is kicked, our feet should be moving, whether we're walking, running, jogging, sprinting, and we're making some type of run. If we do that, we should be able to mitigate that idea that they'll be able to figure out a good position to foul. But it's a good, the idea of that concept carries through. Thank you. Okay, I did remember to do my little survey on this. We're just gonna do some rapid fire for this. It's already 8:25, so this is just rapid fire. We're gonna talk about it if you want to, but I don't want to like beat your heads through a wall if I can help it. So our free kick is set up here. You are looking for either A, B, or C. You've got the player group that you have in front of you. Ooh, some people are changing answers already. Free kicks are kind of my favorite thing to do here simply because we're able to kind of apply all the nitty gritty stuff that we learned in goal kicks and corner kicks and kickoffs and then apply it to a much more like essential situation. And usually people pick up on these things, which looks like all of you are doing. A lot of you are picking the right answer. We usually have about 10 more that participate, so I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. Time to pull the plug if you haven't already. We're gonna move on in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have the vast majority of you picking C, and that is the correct answer. So obviously this gives us a good position to be able to see our wall, as well as if we move into this space once that ball is kicked, we can then see between players where we need to. Are there any questions or people that picked A or B that want to understand why that choice isn't as ideal?
Yes, I'd like to know why A isn't better.
Then which one?
A.
Oh, so the only issue with A, it's kind of the red herring. We can see our wall really well. However, if there is a foul here, let's say right before the kick or right as that kick is taken, you're now looking through this wall to try and see this area. And honestly, your AR is not going to be able to help you because they're looking through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people as well.
B is also where the play is going to go.
In this example, IFAB has actually said that this play is probably going to get served into this space, and either there's going to be a challenge for the ball here, or it might be served a little bit farther out, but it's because there's no forward here, right? If there's a forward here that's waiting for that pass, I agree with you completely. But there's
There is a
nobody
forward
here.
there waiting for the pass. He's right behind you.
This one to the right of us,
Yes.
it's much more likely that he's going to move forward, which is why this player is marking him. Any other
And
questions?
also, if you're
Not
an
in my experience, that ball is going to go to the guys right behind the referee. Even on
Well,
the under
again,
12, 14,
you can
15 games.
Again, you can always start farther out here, and then moving forward is way easier than moving backwards. But you can always start out in this space and then move in, which is kind of what we've been saying all night, which is starting in a range in that area. But A is so far over that you're not going to be able to see any fouls that happen in this.
And you're basically isolated in that spot.
Yeah.
You can only really enforce anything against those, happening between those 4 players, the 2 on the wall, the 2 possible kickers. If there's some preliminary pushing and shoving and stuff with all those other people near the PM, it's kind of hard for you to do anything to prevent any extra misconduct or foul play. So you just have to kind of adjust your position based on where the other players are.
Eric, I know that, hold on, John. Eric had wanted to say something a few minutes ago, and I want to give him a chance to.
Yeah, and if you're an A and
Kalani.
a counterattack develops quickly.
Yep.
Oh, which Eric?
Oh, I'm sorry. Eric Harrington is the one that I had seen that
Okay.
was trying to get it on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. If you're an A and a counterattack develops quickly, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You're
And,
so way behind the play, you'll never
Amen.
catch up on.
Another thing just to add as well, and kind of going on top of our great presenter's point is C as well, is that, A would possibly be good because you can see the play from what's happening there, but then also you can't see, it's a very limited site, and you can't see if there's a foul that happens beyond those 2 players that you could see past the wall. You can't call a foul there unless they're, and plus your AR has 6+ people there to try to watch. So C would technically actually be the better position for that.
So I don't want to waste all of your time too much. I want to make sure that you guys can get home and get a good rest tonight. So we're going to move on to, again, there's just this last one as far as free kicks are concerned. We've got our free kick over here. We are picking A, B, C, or D. This one's a little bit more spread out, so it's a little bit more debate. This one also, 2 answers can kind of be definitely argued between. So
It shows that no answers were configured.
oh, well, okay, then, we're just.
Yep, mine's the same.
Apparently, this is what happens when Mrs. Burgard tries creating these slideshows while she's teaching other classes during the day. So I apologize. So we're gonna show you, and then we're gonna discuss. So for this particular free kick, they are saying that you want to be positioned in B. Again, mostly because they're assuming that this ball is going to be served or passed into this area, and then you can see challenges as they develop. You can, of course, make runs to the left or the right, depending on how that play develops. How do we feel about this positioning from our laws of the game? questions, comments, concerns?
I love it.
I love that, Andrew. What a great comment. I know it's late. I'm going to move on and get you guys out of here. So we are going to, I think we're going to wrap so that we can get you out of here on time, because I hate to take more of your time. If you would like to have this slideshow, I am more than happy to send it to you. All you have to do is send me an email. My email is on the screen right now. I would be more than willing to sit down and talk with you one-on-one about this. There is a little review question. There's this, and then there's one more on the next slide, which is just a 1 through 5, because I want to use your data so that I can make our next presentation better.
So as you guys are writing that down or taking other information on it, does anyone have any last couple questions, comments to get through? Because remember, this is based on where the Federation and everyone wants you to go, where we may referee a U10 rec game, where this all gets thrown out the window, and we just have to do what's best for the U10 rec game. In a U19 game, we got to kind of follow some of what's being said here. So always remember, what we're trying to do is give you what the book says, and then you can change that based on your game and your experience. So hopefully that makes a little sense. So if no one's got any other questions.
I do have like one more slide that's next, if you're still typing, just to kind of give me an idea of how much this helped and how much this didn't. So if you could give it kind of like a 1 to 5 scale, you just type in a number and press enter, and that's the last I will bother you with this, but I appreciate it.
One thing you all should remember from Kaylani earlier in this presentation, she did say, when the ball is moving, so should you be moving. A moving ball means you should be walking, jogging, running, and or sprinting, whatever the circumstance situation dictates. But when the ball moves, you move. And if you keep on moving, you're going to be in a great position.
Point out, just because Kalani still has them up on the screen there. Notice the age groups. We had clips there going from U12, I believe there was a U12 earlier, U14, U16, U17. So it doesn't have to be just the U19s that Eric mentioned. There doesn't have to be that large gap in there. So we do realize there are the oddball type ones. U10s are a little bit weird, but these guys are more talented than what you guys are giving them credit for.
Oh, our host also just asked a question on another line, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most agreeable, as to the choice of the playlist while you were waiting for the presentation to start.
Nicole gave me the challenge of coming up with the most annoying and random playlist that you have ever seen. So based on that assessment.
Where in that message was annoying? Where in that message did I say annoying?
Most random playlist ever created. So based on that.
All right. On that note, a couple people were asking when the next meeting is. So we'll plan to have it 2 weeks from today. I'll send out emails with the link and what we'll go over. But does anyone have any other questions for Kalani? If not, thank you very much for joining us and doing the presentation. I think it went well. Other than that,
can I add one thing, Eric? Sorry, Eric, this is Yuya. Yeah, just 30 seconds. It's good to talk about what happens in this game or that game. We always bend the rules, whatever, but in order for you to bend the rules or bend what other people are saying, you have to know what they're saying. You have to know the rule. If you don't know it, then you can't even bend it. So it's important to remember what the book says, and then we can go from there. But if you start without anything, then we end up all over the place, and that's not going to be good for us, but also for the players. So I just want to make that point. Thank you.
Nice job, Kaylani.
Yeah.
So you can click that record button to stop it.